Okay, so you can see here I have finished all of my skinning for the Patrick model here. And I am just going to quickly take you through what that skinning looks like through the paint weights tool. So you can see the kind of influences that I get from all the weight painting that I've done if you're trying to mimic or imitate what I have done. So hopefully that will help give you a good idea of how to put it together so that you get some really nice deformations from the core down the arms, the legs, the feet, and all the way into like the face and eyelids. So I'm just going to run through these real quick, starting with the root and down the chain. So here we are. So this is the root. This is the influence that I have here. You can see a lot of the stuff down the center isn't going to have a lot of entirely white areas. There's going to be a lot of overlap from other joints in here. So I have the belt and the belt loops all at the same weight so that they maintain a sense of like solidness to it, so they're not as stretchy and don't squash and stretch as much when you're deforming, so that it acts a bit more like you would expect an actual belt and belt buckle to. So this going all the way around is the root, and then going down the chain, this is the lower back. You can see like the influence never really gets to past the joint below it or above it in it. So it'll overlap with those two, but it won't ever get to that third joint below. So this is the lower back right here, all the way around. Here's the mid back. So again, overlapping with the lower back and the upper back. And then we'll start seeing influence from the clavicles and a tiny bit from the shoulders. Well, that's what that looks like. Here's the upper back. Upper back, you can see I have 100% painted on like a lot of the collar area there near the center. And then I will keep going up to the head. So here's the neck. Neck, you can see I put a tiny bit of weight on the back collar, but I'm not totally concerned about the clipping on that. We're gonna have it either way. We would need more joints and other deformation tools to kind of work around that, and that's beyond what we're looking for. But you can see here how it's gonna blend up into the neck and the jaw area. And then if I go up to the head, you'll see a lot more white on like ears and the skull area. And then you can see that all the areas that it's not influencing, the tip of the nose, the jaw, down into the neck, and obviously like the eyeballs. But a lot of overlap with eyelids, the nose, eyebrows. Here's the jaw. That's what this kind of looks like. And then here's all the brows. Left brow, inner, mid, and outer. There. So again, these overlap quite a bit, but never fully 100%. So the skull still has a lot on it. The left eye, obviously everything's just on the eye. It has no other influence anywhere else on the head or the body. And then here's the lower lid. And here is the upper lid. And then here's the nose. And then obviously the right side is going to mirror everything. So we'll go back up and start going down like the clavicle. So here's the clavicle. It's obviously going to have a lot of weight here and coming around. So this whole area is one of the trickier areas to skin because you're sharing influence between the mid back, the upper back, the clavicle, and even some with the shoulder. So a lot of sharing that's happening there, but that is about what this looks like for the clavicle. Here's the shoulder. So just a tiny bit of influence here, but not really getting further than that. Going all the way around. And you can see this is all painted 100% to the shoulder, and then it overlaps, obviously going into the elbow there. And this is the elbow, which is going to overlap. There's a bit more on the actual shirt cuff, as I wouldn't expect that to twist a whole lot off of this, off of the forearm. And then here's the forearm. You see the forearm, it starts out mellow where it's sharing a lot of influence with the elbow. And it's really not until all the way at the end of that chain, right before the wrist, where we're getting like 100% with the watch and everything. And that's so that our wrist has good deformation there. So I'm just going to frame the wrist now so we can take a look at all of the fingers. So here is our wrist. You can see even the wrist influence bleeds into each of the ends of the fingers and a lot of overlap with the thumb. And then each of the fingers. So these will all be very similar with each finger. That's how the middle knuckle, the middle mid looks, and the middle tip looks. So just a little bit of overlap on those three bands on that joint that is being shared with the joint just above it, that middle joint. Here's the pinky. You can see a lot of the pinky knuckle coming here, a little bit into the palm, even tiny bit of influence on the other finger. Here's the mid. They're all very, very similar. And here's the tip of the pinky. And then here's the pointer finger. Right here. And here is the pointer mid. So look, there's even a little bit here that I missed that I can clean up. And the tip finger is right here. And then our ring finger is going to be similar to the others. A lot there. And some coming into the palm. And there's the ring mid, the ring tip. Even this, I would probably get rid of all of this. So that is, I got a better transition and smooth this out here. All the way around. So this joint having a lot of influence obviously kind of comes into the palm. And then the left thumb mid joint. And the left thumb tip. And then we can actually jump all the way down now and look at our pelvis. So here's our pelvis. So if you were going through and you're skinning, you probably found that these verts, a lot in here, did not like the mirror function. So when you went to mirror your skin weights, it was messing this up. When you find things like that, that's where I say like, hey, we're focusing on symmetrical before the asymmetrical. So this stuff doesn't mirror well if you messed with it and then you mirrored and you found that you had some really messed up stuff. That should be a really good sign to you that like, hey, I'm going to ignore that. Even though I'll have to go back and fix it, I'm going to ignore it because I can hit the rest of the arms, the legs, and mirror all of those, even the face, and get all of that mirrored, and then come back and fix the areas that are asymmetrical. So those should be the last things you work on, is that asymmetrical stuff. Because once you get into the asymmetrical, you can't use the mirror skin weights tool because it's just going to keep messing up that area. So that is where it becomes, where you need to really be highly alert with those things and and do a lot of finesse work on left and the right side. So you have to do them together. Here's the left hip. You can see it kind of bleeds. Obviously fades over at the hip and then fades over at the knee. And then here's the left knee, which comes down. Now, if this was an actual just like a skin that wasn't a pant leg, then and it went right into a foot, you would see a lot more of this area being a bit more like the knee and overlap with the shoulder up here. But where this is meant to be kind of this solid cuff, I painted this weight to be very, very similar to the rest of it so that it would stay pretty whole. And then the shoe has zero influence from the knee at all because it's completely separate. It's only controlled by the left ankle, which you'll see here. So the pant leg you can see has quite a bit, and then obviously the back of the shoe at the heel up to the ball, and then you have the ball joint right here. And that is what each of these look like. So the nice thing about painting weights is that you can continue to refine this as you go. So as we make controls and we start moving it around a whole lot more, you can easily go back and be like, oh, I don't like how that's deforming. I want to change this weight, and you can do that. One thing you can't really do once you get into building controls is any adjustments with any joints. So that is everything, and you can kind of see how he bends and twists. It's pretty good deformation throughout. And lower back, good twist, and some good bend. And like the hips, this is where you can see the belt and belt loop area. Even though I'm moving it quite a bit, it's not really squashing and stretching like some of these other areas. So it gives it a much more believable feel that that is a fairly solid connected object. Whereas skin and fabric can bunch up and stretch and everything. So this is kind of how a lot of my deformations turned out that I'm fairly happy with. You'll always have this clipping that's going to happen unless you get work into muscle systems and things like that, but that's much more advanced. So for now, yeah, we deal with the clipping and it generally looks just fine. And then here's the ankle. See how that's moving and deforming. And then the ball joint on the foot. flops that around, and then you can see our clavicle and how that's deforming. The shoulder, how that is, and the elbow, the twist on the forearm, and your wrist. So we can grab all the fingers, rotate those down as well. Kind of see how they're moving and bending. All the joints. If we were to rotate this all in, more of a fist, start looking like this. And then you can see the thumb, how that's bending. And the thumb tip. It's all looking pretty good. Here's the neck. How it's kind of deforming and looking. He's got a big neck, you know. Something that I wouldn't have minded so much, having another joint in here to break up some of that. But it's fine. And then here's the head. And here's the jaw. See how that's working. And the nose. Wiggle that around. Okay. You can see a little bit on the eyelids. Those kind of come up. And down. And then the eyebrows, you can kind of see how they're moving, shaping the forehead a bit, like that. Okay, so hopefully when you guys get through, yours will be looking a lot like this and deforming pretty well to where you're pretty happy with everything. And as you get further in and you start moving it around a lot more, you may find other areas that you want to clean up, and that is totally fine. You can do that as you go. Just remember to keep saving as you do it. And really, once you're this far, you want to start avoiding things like the mirror skin weights and even the go to bind pose. Especially if you've gone in and you found out like, hey, like I had an issue where I didn't like the orientation of my fingers. And so I adjusted the joint orientation after it had been skinned, which is fine. You can do that. However, it does destroy your bind pose. So then if I ever click to go to bind pose, it would revert my orientation back to the old orientation that I did not want. So I would have to redo that. So just something to be aware of. But yeah, now we have this. We are ready to add the hair, and we're going to move on. We're going to look at some mocap and using mocap to kind of test our joints and see how the body is deforming. And that will be in the next few lessons.